It was supposed to be the conference which built on the party's successes in this year's local election. But for UKIP and their leader, Nigel Farage, things have taken a turn for the worse. The UKIP MEP, Godfrey Bloom, called a room full of female party activists sluts. Paul Nuttall, the Deputy Leader of UKIP, is on the line there now. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
So what happens next with Mr. Bloom?
Well, Godfrey has had the whip suspended by the party.
What does that actually mean?
Well, it means that he can't describe himself as a UKIP MEP at the moment. And he will not be sitting with us in the chamber in Strasbourg. And what will happen now is that a disciplinary committee of the party, which falls under the auspices of the National Executive, which is the highest management board of UKIP, will decide whether Godfrey's suspension from the whip as a UKIP MEP is permanent or temporary.
Why don't you just kick him out?
Well, because Godfrey has many assets. He's a very bright man. He's a fantastic platform speaker. He's worked hard on behalf of Yorkshire and Humberside and North Lincolnshire, the area that he represents in the European Parliament for a number of years. My words, I think he's been a good MEP for you guys. Unfortunately, he's made a number of pronouncements over the summer which have embarrassed the party, and quite frankly, what happened yesterday and the fact that he's overshadowed our conference in the way he has, in the eyes of the party chairman, took him beyond the pale.
Now, David Cameron described UKIP as fruitcakes.
Yeah. Well, that's just not true, is it? Just because one person says one thing, you can't describe 35,000 people as fruitcakes. Just because we want to get out the EU, just because we want controls on immigration, just because we don't want to see defence cuts, doesn't make you a fruitcake, because if David Cameron is describing us as fruitcakes, he's probably describing about 90% of the population.
But it's your reputation on racism and sexism that's called into question, and Godfrey Bloom hasn't really helped that, has he? Because the comments he made they're sexist, aren't they?
Well, they're not clever. They're not clever. I mean, I know he's arguing that he used that term, and if you listen to the clip in its entirety, he's claiming that he used that term, the word slut, with its 1960s definition and connotation, which means untidy. And if you listen to the whole tape, you can see that that's what he's trying to do. But what he's got to realise is using that kind of language in the 21st century is completely unacceptable. The word has a different meaning in this century, and quite frankly, it's not the actions of a grown-up politician, and that's why the party's had to take the decision it's had to take.
But it is sexist because you couldn't describe a man that way, could you? If a man said he didn't clean behind the fridge, you couldn't call a man a slut, could you?
I'm not on this programme to defend what Godfrey said. Quite frankly, I think it's inappropriate. The party thinks it's inappropriate, and that's why the party's had to take the decision it's had to take, and we're doing it with a heavy heart. We're all friends, and quite frankly, overall, I think Godfrey's done an excellent job, but it will be down to the disciplinary committee to decide whether his removal from the party whip is permanent or temporary.
Will he be sacked?
Well, again, that's not my decision. I'm the deputy leader. I deal with the politics. I don't deal.
So whose decision is it?
Well, it's the decision of the party chairman under the party constitution, and then it will fall under the National Executive Committee, which is the highest managing board of the party. They manage the party. They deal with the internals within the party, and they will put together a disciplinary committee which will hear the case of Godfrey Bloom. It's got nothing to do with myself or Nigel Farage. We're the leader and the deputy leader. We deal with the politics. The managerial side is completely separate.
If it was up to you, would you sack him?
I'm not going to tell you, because quite frankly, I'm not going to prejudice the decision that the disciplinary committee has to make.
Because if you wouldn't, you'd stand by him as a deputy leader, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't. I'm not going to prejudice the decision that these people have to make, because I know what I will say could well guide people in a direction one way or the other, and I'm not going to do that live on a radio show.
But for the party to move forward, he has to go, doesn't he? He's a liability, he's a loose cannon, and he's not helping. He's playing straight into the areas that are the biggest weaknesses with UKIP. He's playing right into that. He's got to go, hasn't he, for the party to survive.
I know where you're trying to take me on this. I really do. I'm an experienced politician, so I know exactly where this one's going. All I'm going to say is that people will have to make up their mind as to whether Godfrey's a benefit or like a noose round the neck of the party, and they have got to take that decision.
Well, you know what he is, don't you?
Well, I know what he is. He's a very talented individual who's been a blooming good MEP for Yorkshire, and you know, you should be thankful that you've got him, because the work he's done out there in the European Parliament has been, quite frankly, excellent, and he puts to shame the rest of the MEPs that you have in your region, from Labour, the Lib Dems, the Conservatives, and some other far-right guy from the BNP or something like that.
Paul Nuttall, Deputy Leader of UKIP, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks for your time, thanks for coming on.
Cheers.
I've enjoyed talking to you, and I've enjoyed you dancing around the questions, and I understand why. Thank you very much.
On eggshells.
BBC Radio York. I love being back in North Yorkshire. I had a walk around York today, and it's amazing what a cultural melting pot York is. I mean, not just the clash of histories. I mean, here we have a modern city, but with so much history. But just the different people from all over the world that seem to congregate in York. For instance, there was a tour guide giving a talk all about the Minster and its history and everything to a group of tourists. She was Australian. Perfectly valid. There's no reason why she can't be an expert on York Minster. I mean, no one's as old as the Minster, so... But my favourite thing was, I walked past a park bench, and there were two local old boys on there, trying to explain to an American tourist how you drive a manual car. I hope he hadn't rented a manual car, because he wasn't getting it. Not everyone's happy about a newly painted cycle lane on Tanner Row in York. The lane runs in the opposite direction to the direction of traffic on the one-way street, so cyclists ride towards oncoming vehicles. So I went down there to see for myself and have a look at it. I spoke to a couple of cyclists, starting with James.
It's better for the cycle lane.
But you see, the cycle lane goes this way.
Yeah.
The traffic, it's a one-way street, comes the other way.
I've not got a problem with that. There's enough space.
You think there's enough space? You don't get worried? Because I've seen cars, like 4x4s and stuff, whip round that corner there. If you were on that lane, they mightn't have a chance to see you before they can take evasive action.
I've not got a problem with it.
James, look at this. Come and look at this. Come out here. See that truck there?
Yeah.
He has just parked, straddling the cycle lane, and he just came round that corner.
He's on.
I know he's on double yellow lines. He shouldn't be there, but that doesn't excuse the fact that he is there. He's there now. You've locked your bike up in the bike rack here. If you'd actually gone down here, there's a chance you could have had to deal with that truck.
I see your point.
All right, here's another cyclist. What's your name?
Tom Pitchers.
Tom, I see you've just come this way along Tanner Row, which is the one-way street for the traffic. What do you think of the cycle lane there that goes the other way against the traffic?
Yeah, I did it this morning myself.
You went that way?
I went from up there and down Tanner Road that way, yeah. And it's definitely good, because I remember coming down here when there was no cycle path, and I nearly got run over by a car, yeah.
So you think it's better?
So it's definitely better, yeah.
Look behind me now. What do you see on the side of the pavement there?
The van in the cycle track.
He's parked. He's straddling the cycleway.
Yeah.
So right now, if you went in the cycle lane down there, you'd have to overtake him exactly where that Audi would have sliced you up.
Very good timing there, yeah. The car has just come by.
Does that worry you at all?
It can do at times, yeah, but I mean, you can either go on the footpath or you can just wait, but I mean...
He's not left much room on the footpath there, has he?
No, I mean, the lorry has got to obviously deliver his goods, so...
So he's going to take a while, he's going to be parked there for a while?
He could be, yeah, so I mean, it does make a cycle track a bit pointless, but at the same time...
Because you'd end up going in the traffic lane, which is only one lane. We're seeing a taxi come up here now.
Yeah.
And another car.
Another car,
if you'd have gone round that truck, both of those could have wiped you out.
They could have, yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, I think they need to... obviously, there's not many cyclists at the moment, so I think that's the main reason why the lorry's here now. But I think they need to figure out a loading time or something, yeah, definitely.
All right, well, I found the truck now that is straddling the brand new cycle lane. What's your name?
Not telling you.
Good idea. Are you the driver?
Yes.
Do you realise you've straddled a cycle lane?
Yeah.
You know that?
Yes.
Do you care?
Well, yeah, I do, but I need to park here to do the deliveries.
Because the worry is that cyclists who have to come down the cycle lane...
I noticed that...
Because they go the opposite way to
yesterday, I think it was, I noticed that there was these arrows coming down, but...
you see, now
where do I park to deliver?
Because to go around you, they basically have to come out into this lane, and they're actually going the wrong way down the wrong way street.
Yeah, I know. And if I park on that side and cars overtake...
They'll go into the cycle lane.
So where do I go?
So you think maybe whoever put this in didn't think this through?
Well, of course they didn't.
Bicycle, bicycle.
We're still waiting for the birth of the Scottish panda. They're saying the Scottish panda. That's not exactly true. You see, when Chan Chan gives birth in Edinburgh Zoo, the People's Republic of China will get a new panda, not Scotland. That's because China owns all of the world's pandas. They used to give them away. It was called panda diplomacy. From 1958 to 1982, China gave away 23 pandas to 9 different countries. These days, though, you have to lease them. And each lease deal lasts 10 years. They're not cheap. Edinburgh Zoo pays China £636,000 a year for the privilege of having them. Now, that's on top of the £250,000 it costs for each enclosure, and then you have to pay another £70,000 a year to have the bamboo shipped in. I'm not sure what the vet's bill would be over 10 years, but if the local vet in Edinburgh charges anything like what we pay just to keep our 2 cats' vaccinations up to date, it's really going to add up. Mind you, I suppose if you come across a stray panda, you'll know straight away who owns it, so you won't need to get a microchip. There's a bit of a saving there. This panda lease agreement, it runs into many pages, and with all contracts, the large print giveth and the small print taketh away. And it states that any cubs born during the loan period are the property of China. So a brilliant deal for China. Not only do they get someone else to pay to look after their animals for 10 years, they get over £6 million in return, and they get back more pandas than they leased out. One thing you can be sure of is that the baby will be given a Chinese name. I'm sorry, but if you've paid out all that money to lease them, and the cub's born in Scotland, surely you should be allowed to give it a Scottish name. You know, instead of Chi Chi or Ling Ling or Yang Yang, all previous panda names. You should be able to call the baby panda Hamish, or Sheena, or Jock. Because if you don't, you're just pandering.